Welcome to the program, WorldNet Daily, WND Live. We are on the air, and boy, we are getting closer and closer to World War III, it feels like. We're going to cover the attacks on the Hamas and the Hezbollah leaders have been killed. We're going to cover that. We're going to get into the big lies coming out of big tech. It's unreal. And then on the Hill, the new acting director of the Secret Service was in front of the Senate, and Senator Hawley and Senator Cruz absolutely tore him apart. And we will have those clips for you today. But let's get right into our first story here. Let's bring in our panel here. David Brummer is in Tel Aviv. We've got Elizabeth as well as Joe on the line here. But first off, the Israeli defenses have taken out, apparently, the leader of Hamas and the leader of Hezbollah. You can go to WorldNet Daily, you can go to WND and look at this article here. But I want to shoot it over to David for the latest on the ground of what is happening over there in the Middle East. David, what can you tell us? Bring us up to speed one by one here on both of these guys.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I mean, it was a really stunning 12 hours that we experienced here. Fuad Shukur, they're claiming is number 2 in Hezbollah, and certainly he was very, very senior. He and a number of other people actually replaced Imad Mughniya, who was killed in Damascus in 2008, who was very clearly a number 2, and a number of people replaced him. So he's a very senior leader. He was killed in Beirut, apparently in one of his mistress's apartments. And obviously the strike took him out. For American audiences, he's also an important figure because he was instrumental in the U.S. Marines barrack bombing in Beirut in 1983 that killed 241 U.S. service personnel. And he had a bounty of $5 million on his head. And
So he's been around. He's been around a long time. This isn't just this revolving door of leaders. This is somebody who's been.
He's a senior leader. He's in his 60s. He was from the start. He was there when Hezbollah was established back in the early 80s, following Israel's invasion of Lebanon in 1982. So he's been around for a long time. He's prominent. He's been very instrumental in their war against Israel in the north, and also against U.S. service personnel back in the early days of the organization's existence.
Okay. And then before, because I want to get a reaction here from Elizabeth, but real quickly, then a little bit about the Hamas leader. Now, what's his track record?
So
well, that is, let's drill down on Hezbollah first, because
sure,
Ismail Haniyeh is like so big. I'm just going to say this, that why the State Department and all the intelligence services could not find this terrorist who killed 241 in that bombing in 1983 with the $5 million bounty on his ugly head just really fries me. And I did post today, and I don't know if you've got that the bounty poster in your graphics that you're showing, but it gives a phone number to the State Department. Call. I don't know why some Israeli general didn't call real quickly, or like a sergeant or a corporal. Look, I want to give you some intel about this guy. He's dead now, but it's about how many years too late? 40?
40.
40 years 41 years too late. But we got him in the end, right?
But clearly you don't expect anyone to really phone the State Department and think that it's going to stay a secret for that long. So,
I posted that I was going to see if I could get some of that money if they didn't notice. But anyway, I think that this is extraordinary that Israel went in, did this very targeted bombing. Of course, everybody's up in arms and everyone's talking about a conflagration, striking the match, the petrels right there, and, a larger regional war and blah, blah, blah. Firstly, nothing is changed in this respect. Hezbollah has had 150,000 estimated, very highly accurate and far more accurate and powerful than Hamas. Hamas is like, the redheaded cousin or something like that. And they've had them staring down or on the border of Israel and Hezbollah. They basically depopulated all the north of Israel. 80,000 plus people have lost their livelihoods, many have lost their homes, but their kids have been away from their homes for 9-10 months. Hezbollah started this day after. He didn't wait for that so-called genocide to start. They didn't. They started bombing Israel, and they went to war against Israel. It's like a soft, quiet war. But the reality is that this has been ongoing, and there is no, I don't believe personally that we're nearer to this great regional war today than we were 2 days ago. We're that close. And everyone wants to spin it to kind of make it that Israel is the one that strikes the match. When Hezbollah decided to incinerate 12 little Druze children, they're lighting the match, not Israel.
Yeah. So David, so then let's jump to the leader of Hamas, who was in Iran. This strike happened in Iran.
Yes. Let me just follow on quickly to what Elizabeth said. I was in a press briefing earlier today with Amos Yadlin, who is a former head of Israel's military intelligence, long retired. He said that, in his opinion, and I really have to bow to much greater knowledge than mine, that he thought we were far away from a large regional, very far away from a large regional war before yesterday, and we are a little bit closer. But in his estimation, nobody wants a large regional war, which doesn't mean there won't be one, because accidents happen, and because sometimes just because you don't want a war doesn't mean that it won't happen. But the strikes were pretty careful in as much as they can be. They didn't go, blowing up huge blocks of buildings or anything like that. I mean, obviously the scenes of devastation are serious, and innocent people did lose their lives, unfortunately. But with regard to Hania, he was in Tehran for the inauguration of the new president after Raisi died in a helicopter crash a few months ago. And he was in the big plenary that they have there. He was talking to IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps leaders. I'm sure he talked with Ayatollah Khamenei, and he was in Tehran for that. And there is still some debate as to exactly what kind of missile it was that took him out. And obviously there's a big debate of now, and there's uncertainty, and the country's Israel is on high alert. They've called up more troops. There's a no-fly zone in operation over the north of the country at the moment, it's only for sort of emergency aircraft, or obviously fighter jets or whatever it is. So yeah, we're waiting to see what the response.
Now, David, when you say that there's some question about how exactly he was hit, are we saying that this may not have? This could have been someone on the ground, or was it an airstrike?
I think it was probably an airstrike. I mean, I think that the sort of going thoughts are that it was from an F-35, and they just didn't know that it was there. Obviously, the intelligence for both of these hits was extraordinarily accurate, and that's something to take into consideration. I mean, it's obviously there was a massive failure of intelligence on October the 7th, and I guess that the intelligence community here is sort of trying to play catch up for that failure. And I mean, obviously, it doesn't sort of level the playing field, as it were, but it's certainly a way to sort of repay some of those initial failures.
Yeah. So we're going to get into some of the reaction from some folks in the Western world. But what do you think the immediate reaction is going to be from Hezbollah, from Hamas, from Iran? Some of the the players in here who are going at each other. What do you think is going to be the next reaction here?
I mean, so take Hamas first. I mean, obviously, Israel is embroiled in a 10-month war that's still dragging on. Their stocks of missiles are massively depleted. Their fighters are really engaged with the IDF. I think we should be aware that something may not happen directly to Israel, but there may be targets outside, foreign targets, whether it's an Israeli embassy, whether it's Israeli athletes at the Paris Olympics. I think that has to be a concern. And certainly there have been reports that the Israel Security Agency and the French authorities have beefed up security around the Israeli athletes, and they have much more restricted movement at the moment. It could be a soft target like a synagogue, which, you know, obviously the Iranians have.
Your comment on the Olympics is not obviously without history, because we've seen that back in 72, I think it was, in the Munich Olympics. But we do have some footage from the Olympics during the Israeli national anthem during a soccer match. Somebody caught what the I guess the Palestinian fans were doing in the stands. So let's look at that clip. I think that's clip number 1. Elizabeth, can you explain to us what they were doing?
Well, my interpretation is that it's a Nazi salute. Now, someone did post, and I think it's fair enough to say that they may have been saying Palestine, 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 because somebody said they were calling out Heil Hitler. And I obviously it matters, but it really doesn't matter that much. The Nazi salute is part and parcel of Islamic jihad in the Middle East. It has been going back to 1930s, and there is a long storied history of Islam and Nazism. And so this is something that happens all the time. And I don't know of anybody else. If you take away the Heil Hitler and say it was Palestine, Palestine, Palestine that they were saying, very few people do this kind of a, motion, arm motion. And so, hey, it's typical.
Yeah.
The Palestinians shouldn't even have a team there, but that's my humble opinion.
Right.
Well, let me just clear that up for a second if I can. So the Palestinians don't have a team. They're just Arabs who seem to be supporting Palestine by holding up the flags. And what's actually really even more interesting than that is there are, and have been for a long time, a number of Arabs in the Israeli national soccer team.
That's true.
From the full team that plays in sort of European and World Cup qualifications, they have a large contingent of. I think the captain of the national team, I think, is an Israeli Arab. So, it's really ironic that you have people who are Arabs in the Israeli team, and they're either giving salutes or booing the national anthem, and they're,
Right. Hey, Joe, you're probably familiar with Shan King, the activist, the BLM activist, Shan King. He posted somewhere. We have a post here where he's mourning the death of the Hamas leader. You can read it here. We posted it on X at WorldNet Daily. He's obviously Shan King, the BLM activist. He ends his post here saying, I am sending prayers to his remaining family and to the leaders who must now rise up in his place. Joe, what is with our leftist American activists here?
Well, everything about Black Lives Matter is a sham. They've been in trouble for taking a lot of money in and buying big mansions for themselves instead of helping the cause and all that. So when you think of Black Lives Matter, think of Boldinky, if you want to put it that way, because everything about them is phony. They're not for helping Black people, or at least the management of them is not. And everybody needs help. I remember just even when the group was formed and everybody had those bumper stickers a few years ago saying Black Lives Matter, other people came out with bumper stickers saying all lives matter. And there was such an uproar over the fact that you could say all lives matter. Well, don't all lives matter? No, it has to be only the Black Lives Matter. So, having Shan King write this, it's just typical of the lunacy on the left. It's, you're just the drivel of the day.
Yeah. And we have to give a shout out to Babylon B. They put up this headline, which it was mocking, though I think it was a Washington Post or somebody who was commenting on doing a headline on Trump's attempted assassination here. But he says Babylon B goes, Hamas leader falls down after loud popping noises. So you got to give it to the Babylon B. They are on top of it. David, before we let you go, I want to get your reaction. Trump was at a conference and he talked about how he would be stopping World War III and how important it is. So I want to play this clip, and then I want to get your reaction on the seriousness of how Trump plays in the Middle East. So let's watch this clip.
I will stop the wild and wasteful spending of this administration. I will end the endless wars. They never stop. Again, we had no wars. We had no new wars under your favorite president, President Trump. We had no new wars. They thought I was going to start a war. Let me tell you something. I'm going to stop World War III because we're closer to World War III than we've ever been since the end of World War II. I will seal the border.
Yeah, David. So what's your take on what Trump said, and how does Trump play out there in the Middle East these days?
I mean, there's a lot going on beside Trump, but I think that you really just have to look at the policy, and you have to look at the time that he was in office and all of the stuff that's blown up since then, whether it's the disaster of Afghanistan. I think you could probably find, not even probably, I think there's a causal link between the disastrous pullout from that and pretty much everything that's happened around that. You've got bad actors in the world, whether that's China, North Korea, Russia, or Iran, seeing a retrenchment of the United States from this arena. And you know what they say about a vacuum. People fill it. If you create a vacuum, then people you don't want to fill it will fill it. And right. I think that the evidence is, whatever you think about him as a person, whatever you think about his policies, if you just look at the years between 2017 and 2021, there were no new wars in this area. Russia wasn't invading Ukraine. Hamas seemed a lot more pliant. A lot of the stuff that's happening now wasn't happening on his watch. So I think that he can back up his words with evidence. He can just say, look, none of this happened while I was president. And in a way, I think it's much easier to prevent something from happening than to stop something that's already in motion. I think the proof in the pudding will be the eating, in that sense that will he be able to roll this back? Will events have gone on so much in the intervening 4 years that it'll actually be very hard to pull things back, also knowing that he's going to be another just for one more term, and depending on what the sort of the domestic situation is there. So I think there's a number of people in Israel who want him back. Certainly Prime Minister Netanyahu, I'm sure, would like him back. I think he's sort of hedging his bets to see if he can sort of hang on to power until January, where hopefully he thinks Trump will come back into the White House. And time will tell. I mean,
yeah,
that's
very good.
I know that Kamala Harris is not going to be good for Israel. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
There is nothing about anything that she believes that will be good for Israel. As a matter of fact, I think the weak-kneed, spineless, supportive Israel, in which I know is much better than the alternative. I mean, but it's been very detrimental in the respect that they have held back Israel from doing the job, getting the job done. And so his support, which is half-hearted half the time, and that may have to do with his long-term decline into dementia, but Harris is openly sympathetic when in certain forums with the jihadi supporters, and she'll continue that direction.
Okay. All right. Well, David, thank you for joining us. Stay safe out there. And folks, watch WND and make sure you follow his reporting. There is some breaking news that's happening all the time. So we're working on confirming that. So thank you, David. Stay safe.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye, Dave.
All right. Well, let's move on to this next story because the lies.
One thing I wanted to mention about Ismail Haniyeh, I really wanted to bring this up.
Sure.
Because Ismail Haniyeh, I have a post on my X account that my favorite UNRWA teacher was just fired, and no news yet as to who did the firing. But he was a former UNRWA teacher, this billionaire, multi-billionaire, who 3 to 5 million billion. I'm not sure how much he has or had, but he was an UNRWA teacher indoctrinating children, and he went from that to joining Hamas and becoming a billionaire because he's leadership and they're thieves and besides murderers. But I just want everyone to remember that Ismail Haniyeh, a genocidal maniac and a thief and an oppressor of Gazans, as well as a killer of Jews, is an UNRWA employee or was an UNRWA employee. So that was my point. That's all I wanted to say about that.
Yeah, very good. Well, that'll be the last word. Very good. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's get into this. So, Joe, you've been following this. You've been watching this. If you search on Google, do we have this here? The manipulation, right? If you search on Google, I think I did this search where you said attempted assassination of TRU, and then like Trump would never come up. Facebook has the famous photo now, the now famous photo. Facebook has been censoring it as misinformation. And I think we have the disclaimer there, the clip there, image number 4. You can see here. So they were caught censoring the iconic photo of Trump. And there are the fact-checking things to the side. And then of course they come out and we've got an image 6. They admitted that they wrongly censored. They said that it was an error to censor that photo. Folks, they really think that we're that dumb. Joe, what I say this every show. What is going on?
Well, I say this every show. Deception. Deception is the key modus operandi of the Democrats and the political left, because deception is the devil. Now, I want to give you a little background about Facebook and their fact checkers, their so-called fact checkers, because I've had to deal with them personally during the last election cycle and now during this election cycle. Last time we had the COVID pandemic, as you know, and any story that we put up on WND, no matter what it said, if it had anything to do with COVID or the vaccines or the adverse effects of the vaccines, we were flagged by Facebook, and it harmed our distribution of stories almost down to 0, from like 1 million down to less than 1,000 or even hundreds of distribution of that story, because it was labeled fake or misleading information, no matter what.
Dangerous.
Dangerous information. And I spent half my day, my work day, out of WND doing appeals and corrections to try to mollify these so-called fact checkers so that they could take this flag off of WND. So to this day, by the way, we don't post anything to do with COVID on Facebook, because we know we're automatically going to get that flag. So we go out of our way to not even post those stories. And
that's how they control. That's how they control you, because you're
right.
Yeah.
So people can come to WND.com. We've been there, like Elizabeth said, since 1997, and get the unfiltered information for free without having to go through these phony fact checkers. They're all left-leaners, and they are just out to destroy truth.
I will say this, and affirming everything that you just said, and there's so much more to say about it as well. But if you're on WND watching this, you need to go, please, to YouTube and subscribe there, hit the notification bell. And if you are on Rumble, go there as well. Definitely go to X. I mean, our huge Facebook account has been dwindling for years because they block us there. So I'm not concerned with Facebook. I don't believe we're ever going to have the Elon Musk of Facebook and that kind of revival there. But X, but YouTube, even though we anticipate eventually being silenced on YouTube, depending especially on the election, but we still want you to subscribe there, do a thumbs up, write a comment in there, and
yes, and let's show because there's a lot of people that are watching live right now that are on YouTube. We can see the numbers. You guys are on YouTube. YouTube is owned by Google. So let's play clip number 3. Play clip number 3. This is what happens when you go to Google to search for a story, the assassination. Okay, that's what happens. I mean, everybody uses Google. Everybody uses a search. You know how the suggestions come up. Sometimes they're helpful. Sometimes they're not. I mean, was there an assassination attempt on Truman? There probably was. He was a wartime president, but I don't recall that in the history books as
maybe the Truman Show movie.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't think there was an assassination attempt, but I could be wrong, but I've never read that.
Exactly. So here it is, folks. If you're on YouTube right now, that is who is controlling YouTube, is Google, if you didn't know that already. So please, yes, go over to Rumble, go to X, make sure you have an account.
The name of the company is Alphabet.
And that's the overarching
because they're
company.
A to Z and they lock up all the domains and they're sick. But anyway, Joe, I love the background that you're giving on that, because WND, WorldNet Daily, which was the, grandfather or the founding father of modern independent journalism on the internet way back in 1997, started at my dining room table. My husband, of course, was a veteran journalist, ran the LA Herald Examiner, ran the Sacramento Union. But the thing is that there's all kinds of censorship out there and misinformation. I was just talking to David this morning in Israel, David Brummer, and he was saying, somebody brought up WD's Wikipedia page to him, and we were laughing. But I told him the story that we have been trying for 15 years there's an actual witch, WITCH, that governs WorldNet Daily's Wikipedia page. And if you go in there to try to take out far right-wing conspiracy theorist website, which is the first sentence, within seconds, she is personally notified, this witch, and I think she's a LGBTQ person too, then she automatically reverts it. If you do it too many times, then she threatens to lock you out of ever editing Wikipedia again.
Yeah.
So
incredible.
Yeah, we have to know it's ever present.
Yes, I just want to give you some more background about Google. It was during the Barack Obama administration that Google officials were basically there every day. It was like they had an office in the White House to go there and get the marching orders from Obama and his minions, and that's exactly what they are, minions, to suppress truth-promoting websites such as WND.com. So they targeted WND, and we're seeing the fruits of that to this day. The people at Alphabet and Google are left-leaning maniacs, and they cannot stomach any truth being broadcast. So it's any form of censorship or throttling down that they can do, trickery, deception. That's who the left is. Again, they're the devil.
Yep, they are. So then
But
let's
you know what? I will
folks.
say. Oh, sorry. Never mind.
Well, I was just going to say, let us deliver some more news. Let's make sure we can cut through the censors, cut through all this stuff. And because I wanted to move on to the Secret Service, the acting director of the Secret Service was in front of the Senate today. And so hopefully we can get some reaction. I know we'll get some reaction from you guys, but Senator Josh Hawley and Senator Ted Cruz, we have 2 clips from both of them. They both had about 5, 7, 8 minutes worth of questioning, but we posted it on X. So please go watch the entire thing. It is absolutely worth your time. But here is Senator Josh Hawley with about a minute of his interrogation of the acting director, because the last one was fired, of the Secret Service. Let's look at that.
Tell me that, in fact, law enforcement were stationed to be on that roof and that law enforcement abandoned their post because it was too hot. Is that accurate?
Senator, I have heard that as well. They posted up inside. And I think moving forward, as I said earlier, we're going to ensure that state and local counter snipers are on roofs.
But do you know if someone was supposed to be on the roof? Do you know if someone was in fact? That's what the whistleblower tells me. That may or may not be accurate. Do you know that to be the fact? Was somebody posted to the roof, local law enforcement or whomever?
I do not know that to be a fact.
Well, can I ask you why you don't know that?
Again, Senator, we are looking at this, and they should have been on that roof. And the fact that they were in the building is something that I'm still trying to understand.
I just want to express my frustration, Director, that 17 days or whatever it's been, that whistleblowers are telling us more than you are, and you don't know, you haven't ascertained if there was supposed to be law enforcement on the roof. That seems like a pretty basic fact.
17 days.
17 days.
He can't answer the question.
Just wait till it becomes 17 years and they don't answer the question. That's the real.
Well, they just want to give book publishers a field day on, doing Kennedy assassination books. There's probably been 10,000 of those things, and so we've got something to write about for the next 70 years. It's such baloney. Even back on the 9th day when we kept hearing from Cheadle, as we are only in the 9th day. And I think, you know what, if you were a business or you ran yourself like a business person, and this is i.e. Trump, you would know answers within 24 hours. Some of these key questions would have been put to bed. And you would also have been very, very clear to the American people, because they are creating conspiracy theories where there are none.
Yeah. And Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but the fact that we do have sitting senators, we have video, it gets out there quickly that these serious questions are being asked. I mean, imagine if Twitter or X or whatever was around during the Kennedy assassination and we had all the technology back then that we have now. This is quite different. This is still very important that these questions are being asked today.
Right. And if, I think it was brought up on the last show, but if Elon Musk had not purchased Twitter, which is now X, we probably wouldn't see those videos. We had Senator Chuck Grassley within just a couple of days putting out the video of the guys on the roof showing with the dead body of the shooter there and the blood trail and the gun, and saying, oh yeah, we had the photos of this guy and there was communication back and forth. We probably would never have seen that if Musk hadn't purchased X. So thankfully, during this election cycle, we're at least getting some of the truth out there. But as we mentioned in the previous segment, we're already seeing the suppression. I mean, it's so absurd to assassination attempt, and you're typing out Trump and it comes up Truman. Really? I mean, you can't get more inventive than that. It's just so obvious. And I think maybe God is making it so obvious now to people about the deception that he's waking people up saying, you cannot, if you people elect these people on the left, those leftists, I am through protecting you. America is being invaded. The world is on fire, but he's making it so, he had, a bullet just miss his brain by centimeters or an inch or two. And, people need to wake up that God is giving us a chance to get our act together.
Yeah,
that's exactly my sentiment, Joe. I mean, we are completely no daylight between you and me. I believe God has been for the last 4 years giving us a picture of the hell that we will eventually go into. I mean, this is a party that we've been involved in with Biden for 4 years. And if Kamala takes the chair of power, we are in deep trouble. And you know what's so wonderful though about this stuff with the AI generated responses when you do a question as to, was Donald J. Trump, was there an attempted assassination? No, he was not. They actually say it was fake. They actually say that the image was a fake image. There's so many different things like that. But I think that it's just that without the internet and without AI and without all this, that we would be utterly lost because we'd have no idea what was going on. And it's just more fun. I mean, they're being humiliated. Let's put it that way. It's like the AI of the Black George Washington, Betsy Ross is a humiliation. Right.
Well, I know I always have fun watching Senator Cruz do the same thing that Holly just did. So we promised the people we will show this. Let's make sure we show Senator Cruz taking on the same acting director of the Secret Service.
Did the same person who denied the request for additional security to President Trump also repeatedly deny the request for security to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., whose father was murdered by an assassin and whose uncle was murdered by an assassin? Did the same person make that decision?
Senator, what I will tell you is that Secret Service agents are not political.
Okay, you're not answering my question. But you know what? Leadership appointed by the president, by the president is political. I have a simple question, yes or no. Did the same person deny the Trump request that also denied the RFK request? That's a yes or no question.
Senator, that is not a yes or no question. One, there is a process for a candidate nominee to receive protection.
Does the buck stop anywhere? Does the buck stop
bipartisan process that the Hill participates.
It's a bicameral, bipartisan process. What cameral?
For a candidate,
you are not a Congress. You don't have a cameral.
Mr. Kennedy submitted a request that was referred over to the CPAC.
Okay, you're refusing to answer the question. Let me ask, because the failures on that day were catastrophic. By the way,
it really begs the question, like, who makes decisions? I mean, it's all done by committee. I mean, they're asking for names. Aren't they just asking for names? This is the same thing that Holly was asking for.
Barack Obama, that's the name.
That's the name.
Well, I loved his comment. You don't have a cameral. What are you talking about, bicameral? This is so phony. This is so phony because he's asking a very specific question. If it has political implications and if it actually shows that the FBI, the Secret Service rather, is compromised, so be it. But he didn't ask a political question. He asked a question of responsibility, and he wants to know who it is or who the parties are within the Secret Service that are denying protection levels that are necessary to Trump and to Robert Kennedy Jr. Why would that be a political question unless you're reading into it?
Yeah,
which he was.
Right.
There's a reason they call it the Secret Service.
You know what?
Everything secret. And not bringing anything out into the open, even when it should be brought out into the open. And this is why people think that it could be an inside job. We've discussed it or alluded to it on previous programs, but when you are asked direct yes or no questions and respond with, well, that's not a yes or no question, when in fact it was a yes or no question, then people, is the public going to think? That it was an inside job?
Yeah.
I've looked at all of these. I've watched every minute of all of these hearings. And without a doubt, I would say let's just say there's 500 questions that have been asked. Every one of those questions, save a small little handful, 2, 3 questions, whatever, were answerable and should have been answered. And they were either on the inside, on the back end, they don't really want to find out the answer to the question, or more likely they know the question's answer. They just don't want to say it aloud. They don't want to divulge that information, or they want to stall until it's memory hold. And the reality is that any CEO, any executive, and essentially if you're running an agency within the United States government, you're acting as a CEO, and the buck stops with them, and that's why Cheadle is gone. But not only that, you get everybody in a conference room and you look at your department heads and sub-department heads and you say, I want answers on my desk in 2 hours. If you don't have them, you're fired.
Yeah.
Done.
I mean, that's how we would be running it for sure.
Done.
That's how you run a business.
Exactly.
You don't take 17 days to find out who was stealing money from the till. You look at the footage, you say you were behind there, and you're gone. So, Joe, you've also been following the story here that the FBI, it seems that the FBI was trying to allude that Thomas Matthew Crooks is some sort of right-wing fanatic, and the founder of Gab eventually released correspondence from the FBI confirming that, at least in their eyes, that the account that was on Gab that seemed to be supporting Biden was his. Is that what we're seeing right now?
Right. He didn't have a lot of posts on Gab, but I think he posted 9 times. And Andrew Torba, who's a Bible-believing Christian, put forth all the information he had when he was contacted by a federal department to show what they had. And yes, it seemed that he was a supporter of Biden's policies on immigration and other left-leaning policies. So if you might hear other news agencies say, oh, well, he was a registered Republican, which he was. But they will never tell you that he is.
Explain why that registered Republican happened in that state. Do you know why?
I don't know. I know that he.
Well, because when you have certain kind of primaries in certain states, then Democrats can vote to influence the election. They can register as Republicans, and I'm not up on every detail. I'd have to refresh my memory, but Democrats do this all the time to influence Republican primaries.
Right, and just because you're a registered Republican doesn't mean that you like Donald Trump. There's many snakes in the Republican Party, as you know.
Yeah, but this he was clearly a leftist.
Oh, right. When you read the actual words that he put on Gab, which are out there for everybody to see, and we have them on WND. So it's clear that this is not a guy who loves Trump. He hates Trump, and that's why he's involved in this. Now, if there was anybody else involved, we just don't know yet because the Secret Service is zipping their lips and not being forthcoming on virtually any detail.
Well, and this is the problem. I mean, Tucker said it recently in an interview where he just said, he's looked upon as a criminal because he doesn't want to hand over or let the government look at his text messages. But the government has 1 trillion documents that's still sealed up. And it's our government. We're supposed to be able to see this stuff. Here's the post that Andrew Torba had up here. And there's a video in there that has the FBI trying to confirm one thing as it doesn't come forth with the information of going on to Gab. So we've got all that stuff posted on X. So please go over there and check it out. We are going to wrap it up here now, but make sure we are following Elizabeth. How can people follow you on X? Because you're posting some good stuff over there, retweeting some good stuff. What's your handle?
Get your pencils out.
Yes.
At Elizabeth Farah. At Elizabeth Farah.
Very good. And Joe, you're on X as well.
I am. I'm at Joe Kovacs News. All one word, Joe, Kovacs News. That's my personal handle there on X. But and of course we have the WorldNet Daily page, which is at WorldNet Daily on X.
Yes, and we're posting there furiously. So please make sure you follow that and hit the alert button there. All right, folks. Well, thank you so much. We'll be back here on Friday. And on behalf of Elizabeth and Joe, we thank you for watching. God bless. Take care.
Bye, Matt. Bye, Joe.
Poor hubby. Poor hubby.